Good to be sane, as
Glad
they
it worked.
say.
All set.
Amazing. Absolutely.
All right, so we're on. Okay, I'd like to
Blown
call,
away.
I'd like to call the meeting of the Charter Commission, 6:30, December 4th. We have a quorum. We are only missing Herb. So we're called to order. First thing on the agenda is the minutes of November 20th.
Move to accept.
Second.
Any corrections, changes? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Quick.
All right, continuing business, we have two things on the agenda tonight, one of which is to try to put to bed the concept of elected town officials and town agencies. Are there any additional elected people you would like? We had the attachment went around again, which is the framework that we got, a one-pager from Collins Group.
Yep.
Sandy did something similar. And.
But you used AI, right?
I did.
I'm always a little hesitant with AI,
Well,
because it just
it's
does a
interesting to
cursory
see.
review of the internet.
Oh,
It
I
sounded similar,
Yeah, it
I would
just,
be like you.
enough gentlemen.
I like it.
yeah, it was interesting.
So, do we, or do we not, want to have additional elected people, leaving out the Charter Commission, which we haven't gotten to yet, which I think we're in agreement that the Charter Commission would be elected. But all the the boards, committees, and commissions that are now appointed, where are we? I can tell you that I spoke to Herb today, he doesn't want to have any more elected officials. So that's his opinion, yes?
At the end of last meeting,
Mhm.
Lou was bringing up, and I misinterpreted one of the things that he said about zoning board of appeals and planning boards.
ZBA.
Right, and what I had assumed when he talked about elected positions, I thought he meant the entire boards. And as we were ending the meeting, you informed me that's not what you were thinking. So I'd like to hear, if I can, through you, Madam Chair.
That's absolutely, I just want to
Your
try to put
thoughts,
this to bed.
What we were thinking was, or what I was thinking at the time, was there's basically three ways that the committees could be formed rather than two.
Mhm.
And the additional is where you mix, and it's very simple, look around this table. This is a mixed committee. We have all elected, and we have one that we appoint. We could structure in order to solve both issues, or to not to solve both issues, but to look at both issues, a committee where the town had, let's say, a portion elected and the select board appointed. Therefore, you get the best of both worlds in some cases. More in touch with the community through the elected, more knowledge through the appointed. That's the way it's viewed. It's not the ideal. In my mind, the ideal is all elected, and if somebody isn't elected, or if all the positions aren't filled, they're appointed, or somebody leaves, they're appointed right away. Because those two committees have to be close to the town. They have to be close to the people. And I believe I was charged to be on this commission to solve the frustrations that some people had in town by feeling not part of it, that too many things were going on, that they didn't have an actual role. As an example, and I'm not talking pro or against the housing complex, and hundreds of letters were written. People sat at meetings, but would they really listen to? I don't know. If those people would be elected, there's a greater chance that they'd be listened to. That's what I think that's what, yes.
I'm gonna say that one of the things that you're leaving out in your thought process
Yep.
is the fact that zoning, board of appeals, and planning board function under Mass General Law.
Yep.
Bylaws.
Yep.
Setbacks.
Yep.
All kinds of boo-ga stuff that they have to deal with.
Yep.
Being elected isn't going to change that.
I am totally aware and
So-
agree.
I'm just saying that you're leaving that out of somehow elected people will be closer to the community. But if a plan comes forth that fits the setbacks, the height restrictions, the this and that and the other thing,
But what I'm hearing you say, Linda, is the community doesn't count with those two
I
boards.
did not say
But
the
that-
community, I did not say the community didn't
I
count.
said, that's what I'm hearing.
I said that you are leaving out the fact that these two committees, planning and zoning, don't just function under what the community thinks, they also have massive rules and regulations under which they are bound to do.
I'm well aware of that.
I just wanna
I'm
make
saying-
sure,
yeah, no, I'm
because
well
I
aware.
don't hear that coming
Okay,
out of
there
it.
is that.
Very little.
Look, we have the construct under which it has to operate. Those are the rules.
Yep,
What we're talking about is, you can't change these unless you go to Mass General. What we're talking about is everything that fits in and goes around, and how that's determined. If not, we could have two computers at both of those meetings called AI. You plug in all the variables, and boom, you get an answer.
go ahead.
I, for one, would not be in favor of fully elected bodies. And I'll go back to the senator's discussion early on about
Who's,
the senator.
oh, Paul's.
He's on the Hall of Fame, we have to call him Senator.
Who's Paul?
So when he talked about elected officials, select board in particular, being accountable to the constituents, to be honest, I've never seen that. When someone gets reappointed, if my appointment to BOA or COA comes up, and people haven't been happy with the way I've been operating, the only input they will have, if I were elected, they may not get elected, but most cases are, I would be reelected. With a select board, they have the right, if people come into a select board hearing saying, Richard's up for reappointment tonight, and 40 people in there saying, we don't like the way he does it, that has more input to a select board than me being elected in the next election. That's what I see. And on, well, community input on any of the projects that happened, my understanding of POV was that there was a 4-hour meeting, substantial number of conditions that were put on the project as a result of the public's input to those meetings. And I attended many of those meetings.
Yeah, we did.
And there was a lot of input. I think how the final project is going to come out is based on and there were substantial conditions that were placed.
I don't want to use that, I use
No.
that as a very
Okay.
high-level
No,
example.
I get it, but
Yeah.
the thing is, and I agree with you, Mass General law does dictate what people can and cannot do. What scares me about public input dictating whether a project or development gets done in town, you're very, very careful. Someone wants to put in a Muslim church in town. Well, we don't want Muslims coming to town, so the public input, we don't want it there. Or if it's some other situation, whether it's race, creed, whatever it might be, sexual orientation, we don't want that. The public outcry is, we don't want that. Now, you're redlining, and those folks who are making that decision, if they're impacted by those discussions, and you have 250 or 300 letters saying, we don't want that here, and it's discriminatory in any way, they can't be swayed by that. They have to vote by what the requirements are. I think I could honestly live with, if you were looking at a planning board of 9 members, 7 members, a couple being elected.
Can I respond?
Go, please.
Linda, I don't disagree on the last part. I have a lot of difficulties with all the statements, because again, I'm going by what I hear. My first impression of what I heard is, I don't trust the electorate. Well, I'm sorry. I trust the electorate. All right? I don't trust that they're active. I don't trust that they'll do. But I can't believe in any way, shape, or form that someone who's appointed is going to act in a different way or not get on a committee for specific reasons. So I can't, that part of the argument, I'll put that aside. The part that goes in terms of, should it be mixed? That to me is an option. Again, it's a good option. Not as good, in my opinion, as the option of total elected, because it's gonna happen anyway in reality. The people on the planning board that are serving now on the first go-around, who do you think is gonna run? It's gonna be them. The difference is, when people stand in, or sit in a room and look at you, it's the pressure that you feel. It's the same as select board. When all of a sudden 40 people get into that meeting, it has an impact. Good or bad, it has an impact. It doesn't change the decision necessarily, but it has an impact for you to think a different way. That's why the elected, to me, is a very strong, strong desire. But if I have to, because nobody else agrees, I can go with a mixed. It would be the next step.
I have somewhat of a concern about having a board, committee, commission, whatever it is, an town agency that is part elected, part appointed. Are the elected people going to be seen as, some animals, all animals are created equal, but some animals are more equal than others from Animal Farm? Are those elected people going to be seen as having more authority, more say? Are they going to treat themselves that way? Because we are talking about people who have 98.6 degrees. We're not talking about robots.
Brendan, how do you feel?
How do I feel?
Do you feel lesser? Do you feel like you're being picked on? How do you feel about that?
Oh, you mean because I was appointed?
It's a tough one. I'm
But
sorry.
good point.
Sorry.
He went through a vetting process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So can I interject here on this, on the
Okay.
vetting process? So with the select board appointing the interview process, whether the interview process can be a little bit stronger. For example, if you were to go to the website, you have all the openings for the committee vacancies. And they're listed in the joke, I'm not saying the joke of it all is, but when you go in front of the interview committee, warm body, let's get them on because we can't fill the seats anyways. But this could be an opportunity for the select board to have a better process. For example, if you look for the employment opportunities, the tractor trailer driver, there's a full 2-page, overview of the position. And whether the select board wants to put requirements, and then people can read if they qualify for the position, just like you were going for a job, it'd be the same process if you were on Indeed or LinkedIn trying to get a job. You'd go through and like, hey, qualify or don't qualify. So that could be a better process that the select board can fix to give us more confidence in that process. But I think that appointing is where we should stay. I thought about it over our last meeting and really looked into the data sheet that was given. I had a chance to speak with Mr. Doan, and he enlightened me on, do people really want to run and get the signatures and be in your town and be afraid to lose? Or you had a point, Lou, a little while back where people might be terrified to get in front of the mic to even speak to the select board, never mind running for an election. So I think the appointing process works in this town, or it can work, and maybe there's a better process the select board can do to get a better quality person. And this, I'm talking for the regulatory, I'm talking ZBA and planning. To me, yes, I don't think I'm qualified to be on either of those boards. But I think there's a process that, that they could really vet out the best person.
I think the regulatory boards, for the most part, like the assessors, you guys have to, somebody new comes on your committee, and they have to go through some training sessions and da-da-da, so they understand the rules, et cetera.
Correct.
Conservation is like that. The planning board has extensive, and ZBA, Board of Health.
Yeah, I mean, for example, when I joined Historic, I went to maybe 6 to 8 months prior to that, to their meetings, just to learn and see if this is something I wanted to do and see if I could wrap my head around it. Obviously, I'm in construction, I have a background in political science and, in affordable housing. So, I was able to do both of those, but, I think you would need to vet out the person.
But that's not a charter thing.
No, it's not a charter thing.
So I don't
Yeah,
want to get too
yeah, I
far.
don't want- yeah, that's why I don't wanna go too far into it.
Away from it. That's not a charter thing.
Yeah, so to answer the question, I think having the appointed process through the select board is the way to go for regulatory. And just even based on what you said, with the structure, it's already set with the Mass General laws to govern those bodies as well. There's a second
Now,
second fill.
What we could do is, because this seems to be it's an open question, and there's pros and cons on all sides. All appointed, all elected, hybrid, the three concepts. So maybe this is one of those that when we hold our public meeting in the spring, that, I'm saying spring, just to put it out there, that this is one of those that the people who are present, we say, let's have a discussion. What do you think? and see what comes out of, then again, we are listening to the public.
Yeah.
Because I think there is I mean, I could argue all of them. I just wanted, when I, you know, talked to Lou, was I didn't wanna lose the fact that these regulatory committees aren't pure advisory. They actually have regulatory authority. So I didn't wanna lose that, and I was losing that with your,
Okay.
your commentary.
Can I jump in and say?
You sure
something?
can, go ahead.
Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes,
So I
know.
would side with Lou on this, and I think if your challenge is that they don't have the background to review regulatory issues, then we should be appointing the select board, number one. Number two, no, seriously, right? Because they have to go through this material as well. Number two, I think these two boards, I've been in Harwich now full time for 25 years, maybe 26. The town's changed dramatically. You know, this goes back to that vision piece. I think the people that sit now on the boards would run, and I believe that those should be elected positions. And Paul, I'll respectfully disagree with you. I think people will get up there and run, particularly since, you know, we're running out of land. There's big dollar decisions that need to be made, and the things that go before planning and ZBA are pretty impactful on the town as a whole. And I think that's very different than 20 years ago. And I think it's a better representation of the general public if it's an elected position. And I do firmly feel that the folks that are serving now would run. And maybe they'd be the only ones that would run. But still, the process would be different, and it would be open. And it would take away any of that doubt in the general public that you sometimes see on social media, or you hear in conversations at the grocery store, that X, Y, and Z project happened because of, you know, whoever they got appointed by. And I think, I don't know, I think the maturity of where the town is right now really calls for more transparency. These two boards, I think that will relieve that transparency challenge in a good way. I mean, it doesn't have, and I think those folks will run.
Okay,
Maybe more
Sandy.
people will run, but.
Sandy.
Couple of things. As far as whether people would run or not, we have a 9-member elected commission. Everybody ran. The problem writ large with appointed committees is, and the interview process in general, is that there are people who will never get appointed to anything by virtue of the fact that XYZ Board of Selectmen doesn't like them.
Mhm.
And there's no argument about that. The argument for electing a board, I think, brings it out into the public view. Running for office requires explaining to people what the office is about, where you're coming from. It's a vetting process like no other. And I personally would like to see more committees elected. As a practical matter, there are some that probably couldn't be, but you could throw conservation into the mix. And one last thought that we talked about years ago and never really went anywhere, but just a thought to throw out there for whatever consideration. The planning board is a hugely time-consuming job. They not only have to do the permitting end and the regulatory end, but they also are expected to plan. And I think it might be worth considering having 2 separate boards, one to do planning, one to do the permitting.
It's an interesting point.
Interesting, good.
So where are we going with this? I mean, I've heard this is the same conversation we've had, this is our third time now having this conversation of elected versus this, et cetera, et cetera. Where are we going?
So,
You're laughing, Paul.
Well, just a few comments. Going back on some of the stuff we've talked about, I have to reinforce the comment I believe the chair made, that someone who's elected, how do they treat that versus an appointed person? I think an elected person envisions themselves as being of a higher authority, having a higher base of behind them than an appointed person. So having some people who are coming in with that attitude and other people who are coming in with the attitude of an appointee, I mean, I guess I could ask my distinguished colleague here. I mean, does he feel that he has the same chutzpah that we elected people had versus you who didn't get elected? I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you would agree, would you not, that there's at least a perception that there's a different status of an elected person versus an appointed person? Is that?
I mean,
Well,
yeah,
I'll
it's-
relay the question.
oh,
Strike
I
the
think you went
question.
through a good process as far as choosing me, I guess. I mean, I feel like
I treat you like an equal.
yeah,
I
exactly.
beat you.
Yeah,
That's
I
not the
don't see
same-
that being a, yeah. I think I could be recalled the same. How about that?
Well, you can't be recalled if you were appointed, but you can if you were elected. But anyway, so that's one point. The second thing I wanted to make was the Massachusetts zoning by the general laws affecting zoning and affecting a lot of the planning activity clearly do state what you can and can't do. And even though you have the ability to appeal a decision of the Board of Appeals to the Superior Court in Barnstable, there's no way that the court is ever going to allow that appeal to stand, because for it to meet the tough conditions of the zoning board of appeal, of the zoning bylaw, is almost insurmountable. There are 3 or 4 reasons, we don't need to get into those, but that might justify an appeal. One, for example, is if the zoning was considered spot zoning, which technically is illegal, right? So if the zoning board acts in a certain way, a person can maybe appeal on that ground. Or if the lot that's dealing with is so unique that it creates an impediment sufficient to convince the judge. But for the most part, any decision, the zoning board can't really do a great deal of independence. In this last experience there, I applaud the process. It ended up with a result that the zoning board had to agree to begin with. The general laws that apply to the type of provision they appealed under is basically guaranteed. The only thing the town has the ability to do, and can appeal it, but they're not going to win on appeal, would be to modify in some way something that is considered acceptable, and that's what happened.
Okay, we're getting far afield.
Well, we are getting far
Can I
afield. Well, let me
just-
just add
Far afield, so
one
close enough.
quick point. I originally, remember we had elected zoning members, we had elected planning board members back in the early days, 60s, 70s, certainly that period. We've got to move away from that. I continue to worry about putting provisions in that incite people to defeat the whole proposition because of maybe something we stuck in. And to me, elected versus appointed people is that kind of a decision that some of these things we're dealing with are so subtle and so detailed that most people just kind of defer. But something like elected or appointed is something everybody has an opinion on. And I worry about that. However, saying that, I tend to feel sympathetic to Lou's point of trying a process of electing and having some appointed. I think it's a unique opportunity. I'm not sure it exists in the Commonwealth, in any community. But I think it has merit, and I endorse the chair's view that this is the type of thing that we should throw out to the public, get their response to, and then march based on, is anybody following this parade? If there's nobody behind us, I don't want to be out there trying to jam something down people's throats. So, in the end, my conclusion, I generally support just the status quo with respect to elected and appointed people. I think it works both ways. But I think it's worth trying to the point of putting it out to see what the reaction is, and act relatively in tune with what we hear from the public. So I applaud the idea, and I think it has merit, and I think we should take it to the next step.
Richard? Richard?
Paul summed it up very well, and I just think it's, because you asked, well, where are we going? What are we gonna do? I think, let's get some input. Let's get some input in public hearing, see what people think about it, because that will go to your point. I'm not sure, we had 1, 2, 5 people at a meeting. Next
Yeah,
public
well, that's
hearing,
true.
if we have 10 people, that is not gonna change my mind.
Right.
But if we have 75 people there, and people are open to it, then I think that addresses your question of, would it be defeated because of elected officials? That, and we'll have a better understanding after that public hearing. I would say, leave this an open topic until we get to a public hearing, and then you get more feedback.
Yes, I'll add it as a open issue. Lou,
And if I may, very quickly,
Very quick.
I just want to make sure that in our thought process, elected versus appointed isn't meant or intended to change the outcome. And that's where this seems to be going, is outcome. No, it's not meant to do that. It's meant to how our town views the decisions that come out. More openness. We have to get away from this, nothing is gonna change or so forth. That's not the intent of elected versus appointed. And I agree, we need to check.
If you can figure out how to put into words, into this charter, that there will be openness and transparency and above board, God bless your little
That's not the
heart.
purpose of the charter.
Because it ain't gonna happen.
Linda, that's not the purpose of a charter.
It is not, but it is, we talk about you somehow saying because somebody's elected, they're going to be more transparent. I don't believe that one, at all.
No, I
And I
don't
don't
believe
believe
that either.
that having somebody appointed is more transparent, because again, it's humans. So,
We're on the same page. I think it needs to be vetted.
so
Can I
that's.
write an article?
Let's have robots.
Yes.
Rock'em sock'em.
So the action steps, I think, is a great idea. But again, I'll take on one responsibility if 1 or 2 people are willing to look at it and change it, which is writing an article for the paper, because I think that's critical to get action.
I think we are, and we're gonna have that,
Wait
talk about that at the
later,
end.
okay? I think that if someone would put it on some social media to get a buzz of what people feel, and maybe we could even do some personal surveys.
We can talk to people out there.
Yeah.
Have at it. Talk to people about what, and bring that information back.
Perfect.
I mean, I think we have to be cautious on the social media, because that starts getting into open meeting conflict and all that foolishness.
I don't think it does necessarily, if you're reporting on the fact that the board is having this conversation and it's an open question, and if people would like to provide feedback. I think that's fair game. I put up a post this week, and it was interesting because I looked at the number of views of our last meeting before I put the post up, and I think there were like 45. I put the post up, and within the next day, there was 15 or 20 that had looked. So it had brought attention, because I posted a link to the meeting, and people went and watched at least some part of it. They want long enough to click on it. So it does reach people, and it does pique their interest, and I think that's, we may, I am gonna do more of that, but not with the not with the idea of trying to guide opinion, but
Right.
just saying, this is what we're talking about, these are, what do you think?
I thought you were deflating.
No, it's my alarms are up, but anyway,
So are we, at this point, this is an open issue,
Mhm.
Yes.
and it will be one of the topics at a public meeting to
Awesome.
find out what the public who is there thinks.
Yes.
I think that is a fair thing.
So you weren't thinking coming to a consensus and when you
No.
present in the spring to
No.
the
There's
forum?
a couple of things I
Yeah.
think that are gonna be, what do you think? And from that, we might draw consensus.
And there's going to be some where we have unanimous and this is what we
There's some
recommend. Okay,
There's already a lot of things that we
Mhm.
pretty much, we have consensus
Right.
on.
exactly.
This is
Okay.
not one of them, so it'll go in the open issues list.
just want to address very quickly, letters or social media, we have to be careful. You have an
Yeah,
audience in your social
Come on.
media. You have an audience when you write a letter. We need to be careful that we're not shaping opinion and that we keep things very broad. And personally, what I would like to see before anything goes out social media or through the letter, that it is vetted by the entire committee.
Because even if you say, this is Joe Blow speaking for himself, everybody knows who you
Right,
are.
right.
And I think you are right.
You are
That we have
right.
to be cautious. Thank you, John, for going to the select board meeting and saying,
Yeah.
give us some opinions.
Yep.
Thank you very much. Judith, yes.
Well, I was just gonna throw out an idea. What if we were on topics like this, which, have a lot of pros and cons for both sides? What if we were to have, 2 letters, choose the best writers on the group, one the pros and one the cons? Not that it's their opinion, but they're putting forward opinions like the Supreme Court does. But, and then that gets published in the Chronicle, perhaps.
And ironically, we are 9.
Yeah.
Supreme Court.
And but maybe we'll get people excited to come to the public meeting, to the big public meeting.
I would hope so.
Yeah, come on,
No.
let's get over this cynicism. I'm trying here, folks.
The only,
Work with me. I know there are good writers in this group, and as long as we're clear that it's just stating different, 2 sides of an argument and throwing it out to the public, what do you think? Come and tell us. Come and talk with us.
Well, we've been asking, I mean, and I see that we have a great many public here tonight. It's,
As far as doing articles and letters as to guide public opinion, there's no reason in the world why we can't do that, as long as that we all agree that that's what we want to guide, where we want to guide, where we have consensus. That's not deliberating. That's talking to the public about what we're talking about and what direction we think we may be heading in. So there really is, there's no real restraint on that.
I just think it's, if we're gonna do it, it should be vetted by the entire commission.
Well, it would need to be the
Vetting and
commission
rewriting are two
saying,
different things.
this is what we want to tell the public, for sure, and, getting the approval of a letter or what have you. But as far as just bringing attention to meetings is concerned,
No problem with that. I think it's great. Hey, come to our meetings. Here's what we've talked about. Boom, boom. Tonight we talked about elected versus
So-
appointed, without
did
any,
you have a problem with what I posted?
just that we keep it as generic as we're discussing elected officials, appointed versus elected, without what, I think we should, or any of that. It should be strictly, here's what we
There
discussed.
was
Did you
none
see any of
that.
that in the letters that I wrote? And I'm just asking
Yes.
for, there is? Okay, then I need to be corrected on that. And I already made a change to the second.
No, I get it. Okay. We'll get into your letter, but I think the majority of it was great. There's one paragraph I would want stricken.
But see, what I would say is, if you
Okay,
take it and
back-
rewrite. Sorry.
pulling us back to the center of the table and the topic.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you. John, you haven't said a word.
I haven't said a word. No, I pretty much agree with Paul proposed, along with Lou and maybe a couple members, a hybrid approach. But either way, I'd like to put some meat on elected or appointed, that if the committee or board has a vacancy, they have the power to, if the selectman or the moderator does not act in the appropriate window of time, to take that appointment and like on themselves, like we did here.
Well, we have the legal right to do it.
Yeah.
Well, we can,
We can put that in
For
the
this
charter.
committee.
Yeah, but I mean.
We have talked about doing, if we're gonna do it for
Yeah,
one committee or
Right.
one commission, then it carries through.
I do, yeah,
everyone.
that's what I'm
So
saying.
whatever committee it might be, if the select board or the moderator does not appoint in a reasonable period, 30, 60, 90,
Yeah.
whatever it might be,
Yeah.
then the committee itself, the commission, will have the right to do it.
I
Yes.
think that will give the boards and committees, a full board for one thing.
Possibly.
if
so we
possibly.
wouldn't have to do that provision for each board, we could just do one provision.
One caveat for the
everybody.
entire, and so that there's no,
Okay, again, back to elected versus appointed.
we've already done it.
Yeah, well,
Are we done?
Yeah.
I didn't, I was asking
Yeah, I
John
just
if
wanted to
he
put
had,
some meat onto this,
Okay.
you elect them, but now they get the vacancy, what do we do now?
yep, but I think that goes under the next section, we start talking about appointed.
Okay.
Because elected people, there
Well, I
is
thought we talked
provision,
about the both at the same time.
there is provision in the charter for elected boards in conjunction with the select board to do stuff, to appoint. Library trustees, water commissioners, et cetera. Elected and appointed, we can talk about that. Okay, we're good.
Yeah, but can the trustees elect someone? If,
I believe we have to do it, I'd have to look at our bylaws at the Brooks Free Library as to what it says, but I think we're under the rules that we would sit with the select board, because it's an elected position.
well, that's what I'm saying, we give that power to the elected board to do that. That's what I'd like to see.
In connection with the select board, you sit as a joint meeting. They've done it on the housing authority, there was a joint meeting of the housing authority members and the select board to choose a person. School committee, that happened, so there are provisions that's the way it works.
I just don't want- I don't
but
like to
that's
see
elected.
vacancies, that's all.
Well, we're going to, we have to get over that.
Mhm.
That can't drive stuff.
Right.
Okay, good.
No, but it can improve the process, though.
Yeah,
I mean, if no one applies appointed, no one's gonna get appointed. If no one runs for an election, no one's gonna get elected. So let the board or committee have the power to fill that board.
and that is one of the open questions as to whether we wanted to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we can move into chapter 7, appointed town agencies. Hallelujah.
I thought we were talking about the both of them.
I sent out a list. I sat
Yep.
with, I connected with Emily Mitchell, our town clerk, and because this number 42 or 43 gets tossed around, that is including elected positions. So we really have 32, currently 32 appointed agencies. And I just happened to throw the elected positions, we do some county stuff, and I pulled out things like the constables, Pleasant Bay, county committees, because those groups are not under the control of the town of Harwich. We're appointing someone to that other committee as a representative. So we're looking at 32, just so we I have the same number in mind. And there are some, my 3 columns are just what's listed on our town website, what's listed in chapter 7 of the charter, should it be there or shouldn't it be, and what is in the bylaws. Because even though we are not a bylaw review function, if the bylaw touches the charter, we should be looking at it. Yes, Sandy, would you agree with that? Because we have to make sure that the bylaw and the charter has the same thing, but we're not reviewing all the bylaws.
Could I just ask one background question on this chapter 7? Maybe Sandy can guide me here, but the original thinking on this charter to include these 8 entities to the exclusion of others being mentioned, is there a background, is there a reasoning for that? Why aren't, if they're talking about appointed entities,
So you wanna send me into the Wayback
chapter
Machine,
7.
do you? Okay.
they don't, I mean, they talk about some selected, but why wouldn't all be included in this, or
My,
is there thinking on that?
well, I would, looking at them, it's likely, and I can't say this with absolute authority without going back a lot of years, and I'm not even sure how I'd find it. But looking at these, most of these, I think pre-charter were elected.
Oh,
Oh,
well, that's certainly the cemetery commission.
Well, I know
was.
Park and Rec was, I know, the golf committee was a golf commission back in the
Yeah.
day. Why that was changed, I do not know. I think these
Waterways originally commissioned too.
waterways,
Waterways Commission, do I think, or am I
Waterways-
confusing with Massachusetts?
is waterways.
Waterways is,
The other thing I can't tell you because I wasn't really paying attention was when the 2006, was it? The Winnebago Bylaw Charter Review Committee
Right.
went and rejiggered a lot of things in here. Some of those may have come from that. And what the rationale behind that and a lot of the other changes were, I couldn't begin to tell you.
And the rationale for kind of hinting at the size of committees when it's dealt with in the bylaws is that,
Well, it was, a lot of them were dealt with in the charter to
Right.
begin with, and then people wanted different sizes of committees. So they decided to make it more generic in the charter, that much I do know, and point to the bylaw, because the bylaw is more easily changed than the charter is.
so one of the things you could do in the charter is say, whatever committees, whatever town agencies are going to be listed, whatever ones we propose, there be one generic statement at the top that says, composition of these committees is to be found in Harwich General Bylaws, section this, line 2 type thing, and not go through this, having the individual
Yeah.
numbers here, because the bylaw is much easier to change than the charter.
because it consumes a major piece in the charter.
yes.
And maybe it's
So would I.
unnecessary, right?
So should we in the charter, I mean, that's one way to handle it, Paul, I agree with you. Rather than saying every single section of whatever committees are listed, just say,
Yeah.
look at the bylaw, this section, this chapter, and we're done.
Yeah, and, I mean, the committees change, add, delete. I think it's
I think
a
at some point,
consideration anyway to
some
kind
point in time,
of
everybody
sidestep
wanted-
this topic.
at some point in time, I think a lot of these boards and committees wanted more members,
Mm.
and then they couldn't get more members,
Yeah.
and that became a problem.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Board of Assessors, I can have 3, 5, 7, or 9 members
Yeah, I mean, that
in the
doesn't,
charter.
why even go to that point? I mean, just.
There should be one number in there.
Yeah.
I agree. That, it should not be 3, 5, 7,
Or
or
let
9.
the bylaws say there'll be 5 people or 7 people, but to have that nomenclature in the charter, I mean, it doesn't accomplish anything.
well, maybe some of the things that we put in there is that generic sentence that says, composition, you will find in the bylaws, which happen to be Article 3, boards and committees, 7-10, composition of appointed town agencies, which is the bylaw section. So maybe what that is that it's something like a statement that says, see the bylaw,
And,
the committees will always have, odd members, or a little odd, an odd number of members.
Yeah, of course.
So odd number, because I think that's the reason for 3, 5, 7, or 9, to always, so that's always a tiebreaker.
Well, it always has to be an odd number on any of these boards and committees.
Right.
I find it interesting that everybody's got alternates now, that's.
Some do, yeah.
well,
I
collateral
guess-
to that whole thing is the other topic that kind of bothers me, is that we have some other committees that are appointed,
Yep.
that aren't in chapter 7, then they have their own chapters, one being the capital outlay, which I would like to see us change some language, we've already talked about that. But I don't understand why finance committee, capital outlay, so forth, are dealt with separately as opposed to being an appointed agency. So anyway, that's an area I think we really need to,
Some towns elect their
Simplify.
finance committees.
Right.
Yeah.
Then we get
Some
back-
towns elect their finance committees.
Linda,
Yo,
That would be interesting.
I want to address what you said about putting a statement in there, in essence referring to the bylaws. I don't want to have a charter that refers to something else to find out what's going on.
okay.
I would prefer it in the charter.
But you would, but something like, but instead of saying the Board of Assessors, 3, 5, 7, or 9,
Give me
just say,
three members, or five, whatever, whatever that you want to do. And again, financial implication if you're increasing it, because we get a substantial salary of $500 a year. But anything like that, I think you should have.
No wonder you get all those cool vacations.
But I think clarity, we keep talking about that, it should be here. I don't want to have to refer back to the bylaws, but I'm looking and saying, put the numbers in.
fair enough.
Can I
Yes,
ask a
Lou,
question, just
please.
to clarify?
Yeah.
In terms of the charter and the bylaws, the reason we like to put it in bylaws is because easier to change.
Easier to change.
So what if there was a mechanism in place where it's in the charter and also easy to change? Would that solve the issue?
Well, I think you'd have to go through Mass General Law
Yeah.
for easy to change.
Well, you could
Okay.
conceivably
Think
put
so.
in the charter that you've got XYZ committee that has 5 members, enumerate them all, and put in a provision that would allow the select board to expand if you wanted to. That could be done.
Or contract.
Or contract.
But
Not
couldn't,
so much.
with the charter review and bylaw committee, if a change needed to be made, coming under the charter review committee,
Mhm.
saying, hey, we've had 5, we're not getting it, we need to change to 3, and that can go to town meeting.
And then a board vote.
Right.
And if you can only get
Next
3, then 3 still makes a meeting and still makes a quorum. So
Correct, and
there's-
that's my point.
There's no
If-
great urgency to it.
No, but you can still change the charter
Mhm.
under what we have in place right now to
Mhm.
do it. Bylaws can be changed by the select board. A charter change has gotta go,
Bylaws go to
Town
town
meeting.
meeting. The
Correct.
select board can't change anything.
correct,
They go to town meeting. That's why it's easier to change a bylaw,
Yeah.
because it goes to town meeting, it's voted on and
Mhm.
done. The charter is, you vote on it, then it goes to the next election, so it's really a
Mhm.
2-year process.
do the selectmen not have to approve a bylaw change out of the bylaw committee?
Well,
Do they have to approve it?
I thought they did.
no,
Well, they do, and effectively they know. The bylaw, as it sits right now, bylaw charter review,
Yes,
can't bypass the select board,
right, that's what I
which is a
thought.
good argument for why it should be elected.
Right,
Because I believe that the bylaw charter, whatever we wind up with is, if, whether it's a compliance, hybrid, interpretation, review committee, which is what I kind of favor. It's still, if it's appointed, it's still under basically the control of the select board. But if it's elected and independent, and it states that it can go straight to town meeting with its own articles, then that's,
similar
I
to the
think we
way
have to be
CPC
careful
does.
making it easier to change the charter. I think the charter should be a difficult changing vehicle. It should be the
Mhm.
Constitution. The Constitution's not easy to change. This shouldn't be easy to change, and to begin to think that maybe we need to word that again, I think trips that concern that people are gonna get unduly, I don't think we need to meddle with that, stay away from it.
The issue I'm trying to solve in my own head is, I read the charter, I'm new to town, I read the charter because everybody tells me to go there. Like happens here, and you constantly, what do you say to me?
Read the charter.
Or,
Read your
it's in the,
screen.
this is a bylaw issue. Well, how do I know that it's a bylaw issue? How can we make that bridge so that I can go to one place and there it is. Charter and bylaw, I don't know, it may not be able to be done.
No,
Well, that's
lawyers
just-
get paid.
I'm trying to keep our legal fees down.
And that's why we should have civics classes in high school.
here's a question for you, just a hypothetical. why do we need to enumerate the committees in the charter? Why not just put them into bylaw?
That's another one. Why have them in there at all?
That's all.
So should we even, yeah, do we
The only
even-
reason I know of is because the Charter Commission is able to change some of the features of the commission you're dealing with, or the committee you're dealing with, that maybe, I mean, we're in that position to offer that. We're not offering changes to the bylaws. Now, I agree with you that I think the bylaws
Well,
is the
when we-
location
when
where
we-
this should be
When we
handled.
finish doing this, we need to be aware that we should be sure that either the bylaws are consistent with what we're doing, or we are being
Right.
consistent with the bylaws. So we can't do this in a vacuum without at least considering bylaws.
No, but we could make the decision, for example, that we want to have, let's arbitrarily pull out the subject of 5 members on the capital outlay rather than 7. We could say here in the provision under the capital outlay committee that it'll consist of 5 people. If the bylaws say it'll have 7, forget it, that's overruled by this 5
That is
member.
correct.
That is correct.
Yeah,
How
so
about-
that's
Or
where
you
it
could,
could
or
be
you could have,
done.
you could have all your committees and say, the committees shall consist of no less than 5,
Or 3, because we have 3.
all right, no less than 3. I lost the second half of my sentence here.
No
It's been a
more,
long week.
no more than,
So
No
then,
less than
yeah.
5 members,
no
which
more
would
than
leave,
9.
which would leave room to expand it, and further that it, an even, consist of an odd number of no less than 5, or no less than 3, which would leave it open to being more if there was an
Handled
interest.
by the bylaw.
and the select board
Yeah,
would choose
that could be,
Right.
based on the need.
yeah.
So what do we think about that
Be-
concept of, because there are 10 or so listed in the charter in chapter 7. That's an interesting question.
Mm.
Should we be listing any of them?
Right.
Why pick those?
That's a
Or
problem
this
in my
new
mind.
group over here or something? Should any of them be listed?
Probably the regulatory boards,
That's a possibility.
but the rest,
Oh,
Because we have 34 here.
because some of these aren't more equal than others. Some of these are just small committees that
And they-
often have happened just by a decision of the select board.
No, because there's been, I mean, there are times when there are ad hoc committees. There was the Harwich Port Traffic Study Committee. There'll be
Mm.
a small group, a small committee that will be just ad hoc for a very specific purpose, and then the purpose is over, the committee disbands.
And I guess the question is, which of these committees are You've got
Regulatory?
it, you've got them as blanks. The committees, I'm looking at
You go down, it's probably the Board of Appeals is regulatory, the Board of Assessors,
yep,
Health,
What are you qualifying as regulatory? How do you, what do you refer, I mean,
boards that operate generally under state law.
they control somebody's action?
Boards that
Yeah.
operate generally under state law. Board of
Planning,
Health.
Planning Board,
Board of
Yeah, they're very
Health, Planning,
Yeah.
zoning.
specific in
So
how
the
you set
Historic
Conservation
District
Commission.
Commission, you'd say is regulatory.
yeah, as opposed to advisory.
I'm trying to figure out, I'm trying to figure out the statement that Sandy made, because it's interesting, and what the downside is if you take out the committees, and you just talk about the select board having the right to appoint committees to serve the town, and then there's regulations from the charter that try to influence and keep the process pure, so that we don't have Sandy shall never be on a committee, or that type of thing.
But that kind of thing is individuals, and if you have,
Right.
if you have a select board and one person is saying that, it is really up to the other 4 members to say, cut it out.
But is there a review board where the individual might go to the select board as a whole. If the committee says no, do they have, is there a process?
Well, there's
by which-
nothing to stop any citizen from going to the
Right.
select board and saying, what is your issue with appointing me to
Oogly-doo.
I wouldn't know that.
the bikeways
I wouldn't know
committee?
that. I would just bite my tongue. You see, that's the thing. I wouldn't-
You? Oh, please.
I did.
Yeah, no.
You did. You were very, very, you were wearing the grown-up pants through those
Somebody
encounters.
had to.
Somebody had to, and you did.
I have.
Can I interject something real
Sure.
quick? So, Mass General Law, when you look up zoning board of appeals, this is probably where the numbers, you can't just do a blanket, let's do the 3 to 7. So for zoning board of appeals, you need 3, I'm looking at this really quickly, 3 to 5 members. So they're actually telling you what they're giving you the setup for that particular
Yes, there are
board.
some that
So
very
some that
clear.
bounce back and forth, elected, not elected, and there's different process to do so. So we'd have to look at each Mass General Law for regulatory. We make these decisions.
There's only a few that come.
Correct, yeah.
So how many do we have on the ZBA now? Is it 7?
On the Board of Appeals, I believe 5.
Is it
With-
5?
I think there are 3, I think there's 5 members and 5
Alternates?
alternates.
I thought it was 7
I
myself.
think it's,
Yeah.
5, according to the bylaws,
Wow.
which I am reading because that's why they're important to have, which is they
5
are
and 5,
5
right?
full members, 5
5
associates.
alternates, wow.
5
They
alternates.
have 5 and 5.
Wow.
So we'd have to probably take a look at each. I could do that homework if you guys want and figure that out.
Some of the
For next
concern
time?
I have pulling these out of the charter is we went through a whole scenario in the last couple of years of committees having their missions restated.
the charges.
The charters. Where the charter states what many are.
Yeah.
You know, in mine, and I'll look at rec, the policies adopted by the commission shall be administered by the director. So the commission makes the policies that he is supposed to follow, but he is under the direct supervision of the town administrator. And there was some pushback in the last year about that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you can make a policy, but I don't speak to you.
Well, the policies, I think the question underlying that was, does the commission get to create its own policies absent any approval from the select board? And policymaking is the role of the select board. And I think that somewhere in there, it needs to be clear that
It's silent.
whatever policies they make are subject to approval of the,
I don't disagree with you at all.
yeah.
From Board of Assessors, we've had a number of policies in the last couple of years. We will make a policy, recommend a policy to the select board.
Yes.
The select board will either endorse or deny
Mhm.
our recommendation for a policy. But again, I think that needs to be stated and carried through every committee commission is doing it.
Well, that could be done in a paragraph.
But should it be in the charter or just a bylaw?
Should be in the charter.
See, that's my point. So as we get rid of some of these, we need to be very specific on what are we taking away by taking them out of the charter? And if you can do a general paragraph that states those things, that'd be interesting wordsmithing to get to that point.
But don't worry about the wordsmithing, the concept itself. You know, if you pull them all out and you replace that with, and I'm saying pulling them all out as opposed to leaving the regulatory. Pull them all out and make more general statements that policy, you know, gets proposed, you know, committees, town appointed agencies do policy recommendations to the select board, just like, if you were going to have a $5 fee at the window, you gotta get that approved by the select board.
Correct.
So
Mhm.
policy,
Yeah.
fees, you know, we always have the DPW in and the harbor saying what their fees are gonna be for the coming year. Those all go past through the select board to get yay or nay on. So maybe
That any
take
policy
them all out,
from
all
any committee
policies and
must be
fees
approved by the select board.
and the
It's as simple as
fees,
that.
you know, have to go.
Committees,
But back to
committees
your
may
question, what's
adopt
policy?
policies, with respect to their duties, all subject to the approval of the Board of Selectmen. I mean, it's
Yeah,
basically a
that's-
one-liner.
Yeah,
Yeah.
This gets to the delicate subject of the vision statement.
Yes.
we're not doing vision statement.
Well,
you have
we're-
1
We're in
minute.
the fringe
No,
area.
you got
here.
1 minute.
Because if we could in the charter create the authority for the committees to act in accordance with a statement in the charter, then you kind of cover this whole question of who's in charge and how much authority do we give them and how do we get people marching in concert in a policy sense. And when you look at the policies that are right now in the town, formal town website,
Oh, Lord.
it is embarrassing.
Yeah,
And it's
then-
even more embarrassing when you look at who the committee members are, which I hadn't looked at until Lou brought it to my attention the other day, when it showed who were the seven members of the Historic District Commission. Not only is there nobody on the Historic District Commission mentioned in that statement, but the names, I don't know, they're bizarre people. I don't even know that they're real people.
On the website?
This is in the
Yeah.
town website listing the members of certain committees,
I'm
so.
sure there are, but
Yeah.
that's, yeah, let's not go there.
But the charter shouldn't direct something that's an error, and someone's not doing their job.
Correct, I mean, but
Yeah.
my point, I guess, getting back, is if we could put in the charter a general statement to guide policy formulation by the subcommittees and elected and appointed,
Yeah.
then I think we've accomplished a broad directive from the charter and leave the bylaws and the general laws of the town and so forth to fill in the gaps. I
Okay.
think in
I
that way.
think we're saying we can live with that. The question I have for here is general statement, how is policy enacted? A policy is created by a committee, commission, whatever,
Right,
to be adopted by the select board.
To be subject to approval.
Subject to approval by the select board. But here's the other thing that I think is
If
very.
you can
but let me
insert
finish.
in
Let-
accordance with.
Let me finish.
Yeah.
But the other thing that I think is very, very important is, as we discussed early on, who does that rec commissioner report to? Who does that assessing director report to? Those factors need to be stated.
Yes.
And that's here,
Yes.
not the bylaw.
I
Yes.
agree.
But I think you can cover that as you're talking about. If you do a paragraph or a sentence that does it, I'm fine with moving it
Well,
over.
that goes back to the organizational chart,
Yeah.
where all the employees are answerable to the administrator, who is answerable to the select
Correct.
board.
Correct.
One of the people that we talked to recently was talking about an hourglass org chart, starting with the select board, leading into the administrator and out to all the rest, and I thought that was an interesting way to see
Yeah.
it.
But it's done that way because of, like, library trustees. Their authority is
But there
established.
are things that
Waterway.
are along the step of, you know, not counting library trustees are kind of a unique situation.
Waterways as well. I
A
mean,
lot
on
of
water
strange,
commission.
lot of strange people on that
Water
board too.
commissioners.
Right, water commissioners.
Yeah. But as far as the.
You're saying the water commissioners are strange? I just want to clarify.
Yes, she is.
Well,
The trustees aren't, but the commissioners are.
I don't think that even needs to be
Careful what you
stated.
say
I
when
was
you
actually,
get up tomorrow.
I was actually talking about the library trustees, but if the shoe fits,
Hey, I resent that. I resent that. Oh,
We're very important.
you have to say that.
Linda, this is
He has
getting,
to say that, his wife is the chair this year.
Richard is hitting on so many cylinders and so many topics.
So
It's
I'm
hard.
gonna see if I can pull this together a
Okay.
little bit. I think I'm hearing that there
We
might be.
need that hourglass.
Do that hourglass. I think I'm hearing that either have chapter 7, that it's not clear why those 8 are listed, and who cares, that's history. What do
Well,
we?
unless it's important that we know, there may be.
Maybe, but, but right now, this is what we're dealing with, is these 10. So, do we want to just list the regulatory committees or no committees? Let's leave aside for the moment the statements on who makes
But that's
policy.
I think,
Is that where we're going, is to either pull them all out, because I certainly wouldn't agree to putting all 34 in, but what would we want to list there?
Well, if we-
None or some?
If we leave them in the charter, then it stops a citizen's petition to get rid of something in a bylaw, correct? If it's in the charter, like a constitution, like,
Right.
I'm thinking after hearing all
Couldn't
this,
get rid of it.
yeah, so we keep the regulatory in,
Yeah,
and
yes,
we,
you can. They could have a citizen's petition to change the charter.
they could, okay.
Oh, yeah.
I agree.
But it's harder to do that.
Right.
Huh?
Correct? It'd be difficult to do that, correct?
It just takes longer.
Just
It takes longer, but, I mean, somebody can do that. They
Yeah.
could put the same citizen's petition together, get the signatures, however many they need. It
It
goes
makes-
straight to the,
It makes sense. I like the thought of having the committees all the same, if they're not regulatory, Mass General Law. And if it's the 3 to 9, then the select board can do whatever they want with those, so at least we know the committees, it's easy. And the whole idea is clarity to make this easy for everyone. And then the regulatory, we just go by what the state says. We can even do a hyperlink. So if you're reading the charter, you hyperlink and go right to the Mass General Law, and then you have your answer. So there's no confusion for future people doing the same process we're doing.
so are you,
So-
I don't hear whether or not you'd have no committees in the charter.
Regulatory committees, you're saying stay in.
I'm not sure. I
Regulatory,
didn't hear
I
that, so-
think both stay. I think both stay.
All stay.
Yeah, I would
All
think so.
34?
They're not all 34 in the charter.
Yeah, well, I think we have to, that's what I'm trying to get to. Are we
The
looking
question
to
is,
put
what
them
is the-
all in?
What is the,
I
what
would
is?
So there's
say
some
no.
consistency.
My thought is to have somebody,
Well,
and
if it's your
have
idea,
them
you
go-
get to do it.
Yeah, that's
have
right.
them go through what we have here in these appointed committees, all of these different sections, and see what language in the charter is important relative to what's in the bylaw. And if the bylaw is covering more specifically, which I know it does with respect to membership on the committees, this gives a general 3 to 7. Bylaw says there are 5 members or there are 7 members. Those kinds of things, where there's either redundancy or confusion, that would be the justification for not having a reference in the charter to all of these these selected appointed committees. If there's some stuff in this, the text within this charter references to what the Recreation and Youth Commission does that isn't covered in the bylaws, then let's figure out, is it important? Does it need to be here? But I think we'll find that there's nothing in the, I know with respect to the Historic District Commission, it doesn't. It says you'll have the powers that are given to you by the general laws, and you can have 3 to 7 people. The bylaw says there'll be 7 people on the historic. It doesn't say 3 to 7. It says 7 and 2 alternates on the Historic District Commission. So why do we don't even need to have, either one of those things are covered elsewhere, is my point.
But the bylaws do not cover the authority of that committee. The bylaw that is being referenced just says, committee, 7 and 2 alternates.
Yeah.
That's all it says. It doesn't say, this committee has, I don't think there's anything in the bylaws anywhere. I think that's true.
Appoint, you
That-
mean
that-
who appoints them?
No, not the who appoints them, but the charge, the authority of that individual committee. There is nothing in the bylaws, to my knowledge, that says the Board of Assessors has these responsibilities. Traffic Safety Committee has these responsibilities. I don't think there's anything in the bylaws.
And you think those
like
are in the charter?
For those,
Yeah, some
for
of them
these
are.
few
Yeah.
In some,
committees.
maybe some cases.
Should we get like a-
But not on the Historic District Commission,
No,
for
because
example.
but that's why I have the chart here. Historic
Yeah.
District Commission
Yeah, that was
is
handy.
not in chapter 7 in the charter.
Yeah.
Only those few committees are. The question still goes back to, do all the committees go in the charter? Do none of them go in the charter? What?
Would it be helpful, I'm just trying to think out loud, like, could we, like, Board of Assessors, should we get what's on the website for their charge, get what the bylaw says, and if it has a reference to Mass General Law, and just, I'd be more than happy to put it together, you know, in maybe like 2 meetings from now, but have a page, and then we can just edit and have all the documents in one, I know that you get to the Board of Health, but just whatever the charge is, and if there is on the website, and then the other 2 I just mentioned. So I could do that, and we can edit and then come to a meeting and talk about it, see if we can merge everything, or,
Again, regulatory boards in the charter, is that a yes or a no?
Yes, I
Yes.
agree, yeah,
Yes.
regulatory should be,
Yes.
yes.
So
Yes.
chapter 7,
We might
And just-
also, we have to revisit 362 under the selectmen's powers of appointment, because we could probably do something with that that would be more global as far as.
Good.
so,
And there is,
just,
good,
so we're on a consensus here that the regulatory boards
Should
would be
stay
in
in the
chapter
charter.
7.
Right.
And the ones that are not regulatory boards get pulled out.
I don't know.
I want to think about that 1 second, if
Okay,
we can.
you can, go ahead. Paul, you were gonna say
I
something?
agree.
in,
I'd back
Which ones are
down as far as we
regulatory,
could.
Well, we listed them. Regulatory are defined as, they basically take
Oh,
Mass General Law. So they actually have rules and regulations, they issue permits. You know, the planning board
Mhm.
issues a permit to build something, they don't get select board approval. They're under a set of guidelines. So I think we said, it's the planning board, Conservation Commission, ZBA. The Board of Assessors has very specific regulatory,
we signed off on the budget,
Historic district,
health,
historic district.
Health,
health,
Yeah.
yeah.
housing authority, not housing authority,
No.
well, the housing
no,
authority.
that's elected.
No, but I'm talking about the housing trust.
Conservation.
Housing
I'm just
trust
trying
is
to,
a
how many
total-
are there? I mean,
It's a
that's-
totally different animal.
so
Yeah.
the housing
We
trust
didn't
should be
even
on
get
the
to-
flow chart at least,
Yes.
because the select board does appoint, they can remove, they get reporting from their designee.
Right, they're
Um,
all appointed.
Right, so they're all appointed, but they should be on the flow chart, or the hourglass, yeah.
Operating under a separate document.
Correct, we have our own trust document.
Right.
hmm
You,
But I think it should be at least on the flow chart, so it's acknowledged that the select board is involved. Like, our bank accounts are held by the town, the audit
Well,
happens by the town.
But that's not a charter thing.
Right, exactly.
But I
So-
think that we don't even have the trust in the charter, because the trust is new.
Right.
So, I mean, that's an open question that
I
I was
think,
on
yeah.
my list. you
8,
know,
I mean, basically, 8, 10,
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Council on Aging, Recreation and Youth, Cultural Council, those
them off.
Golf Commission, Waterways, are they have a regulatory
Yeah,
effort?
they do.
I don't think they do. And the Cemetery Commission, dear to my heart, but, and bylaw charter review.
That's
So-
not regulatory.
Yeah, so that, you can kind of just knock them off by
Right.
looking at the, well, we got 16 sections, probably 8 of those could
Sure.
disappear.
So, but we're saying, I think we're in consensus, the regulatory boards stay in the charter
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah,
no- and
that's
nothing
what I'm
else.
saying, you got,
Got it.
And then how do we
Hold
fix
it
the,
I'm holding back.
If they're
I'm
removed from the-
trying to get a,
if they're removed from the charter, if they're not in the bylaw, or they are in the bylaw?
well, I think.
Like, we'd have to do new bylaws for, if we're removing them?
Well, I think that under the in that bylaw section,
Mm-hmm.
should have all committees listed to me.
Yeah.
They should all be listed there as to what their composition is.
Mhm.
And some of them are not listed in the bylaw.
Yep,
You know,
like
like-
traffic and safety.
Like, you know, Brooks Academy Museum Commission isn't listed in the bylaw as to a composition.
My question is, would we have to create a bylaw for that?
There is a bylaw already.
No, I'm saying for the ones that don't have it,
Well, I think
like
it
traffic
just-
safety.
It just takes the,
there
you
is a
just
reference.
add them to, you would just have a bylaw change that would add them all to
Mhm,
it.
mhm.
So you don't have to create a bylaw, there's already a bunch of them there, it would just expand to the
Co-
30,
yeah,
whatever
correct.
it is.
And when would that happen, after the charter or before?
Could be in conjunction with it, could be
Mhm.
the same, but,
Okay,
because one goes to town meeting,
Mhm.
which is the bylaw change.
right.
So the bylaw change could happen regardless of what is done in the charter,
Mhm.
because we'd be suggesting all committees are listed in the
Right, have
Need
it
bylaw,
in.
some kind
all
of
Yep.
transition
Okay.
language in the charter.
or something.
Yeah.
Okay,
So,
thank you.
if a committee should be listed in the charter and is listed, does, and the selectmen, and there's enough members, and the committee basically exists without activity, is that okay? Or does that violate all kinds of issues?
It all violates all kinds of issues.
Okay, so
You know,
that's,
planning boards and zoning boards, somebody comes up with a project, they have X amount of time to do something, or it ends up being.
Deemed approved.
no,
It's
I'm going
deemed
somewhere else,
approved.
I'm going somewhere else. I'm set, bicycle commission, okay?
Bikeways Committee
Bikeways, you
is
know,
a creature of the Board of
it's a-
Selectmen.
that's,
Select board, yeah,
all right, that, they could just say charter or no charter, whether it's listed or not.
and they've done that in the past, there have
Okay.
been
Well, that's-
committees.
So that's a concrete.
That's a creation of the
Right.
Select Board, they can
And
do whatever
that's,
they
so
want
that's a
with
place
it.
that I can start my thought process, because if not, I'm gonna go in quicksand. So then, we have, if they're listed, all of them,
Listed where?
in the charter,
All 34 of them.
right. The issue becomes, if I'm on a committee that's not listed, is that a problem? If that brings up the Brendan problem. So I'm trying to work through that to say, well, that's not an important committee because it's not listed. Yet it might be to some people.
It's the difference between regulatory and advisory.
All right,
Mm.
Traffic Safety Committee is an advisory
okay.
committee. We get our sole authority from the select board to go and do our thing.
And I think, and you can put language in the charter that would say all committees
Mm.
will act in accordance with, or whatever, so that you cover these fringe.
Yeah,
Right.
all other
Committees.
committees as appointed by the select, created and appointed by the select board will be functioning under the same set of rules or
Provisions
blah,
of the
blah,
charter, the provisions of the charter
does
would
bring-
apply.
And what if some get elected? If we decide there are ones that are gonna be elected?
blah. I think that's a different animal.
That's a different animal, okay.
Let's wait on that one
Mhm.
and leave that for
And
future.
somewhere in the
So-
transition language, you need to put something that, because you don't wanna change the bylaw until you know that the charter is passed.
Understood, yeah.
So somewhere in the transition language, you need to state that all existing boards and committees will continue in existence until, relevant bylaws are
Mm-hmm,
created, established to
great,
cover them.
got it.
So to finish my
Thank you.
thought, just, and that'll end it. In terms of one of the things Richard was saying, that's what popped up. If you don't list them, let's assume that through this process, we want committees to be associated with departments by charter. If they're not listed, we can't do that. Is that correct? Or, You see where I'm going?
I think your divisions can remain, because we're talking about the divisions, right? Is that what you're talking about?
no, I'm talking about having a specific person from a department, saying the rec department.
Mhm.
Every committee that deals with rec in any way, shape, or form somehow has to go through there to get things done and for policy to the select board, so that there's a real mechanism. And I haven't taught it out, this is just coming now, so I didn't.
I think one of the things is also, Richard said, committees have charges.
Yeah.
So there are formal charges that have been done, sounds like you've been arrested,
Yeah, well, they should.
that it says, committee name, purpose of committee, and it's not in the charter and it's not in the bylaws, but it's their charge for what it is they're supposed to be going off and doing. So what is it you're doing, what is the composition of the committee, and if the committee ends,
Each committee has a charge.
committee
Yeah, but-
has a charge, they have a mission.
Yes, but here's what,
Where
this
is
is
this
the point I was
charge?
trying to get to, and you're helping me. So I have town departments that are doing this, I have committees, and there's communication, but who, there isn't
I
that.
know exactly what you're saying. So when it comes to, I've got a policy from the Board of Assessors. I do not oversee, direct the assessing director of the town. Case in point, when you look at the rec department here, the policies adopted by the commission shall be
Right.
administered by the director,
Right,
who shall be subject to the day-to-day supervision of the town administrator.
Right, and
So
we
that's
gotta-
my point.
We
That's
gotta
right.
clean that stuff
Right,
up.
and those things, we need to have that to say, here is your purpose, here is your
Yes.
charge. You're creating policy to be approved by the select board. Okay, you're creating a policy for a department, and you're saying to a director, as it states here, you need to follow the policies of your commission. So now, well, no, because here's the thing is, okay, Mr. Town Administrator, you're responsible for holding that director accountable for following the policies that have been established by not just the commission, by the select board. So, and that's the issue of what's happening. There are times that it's not happening. There's no oversight.
Yeah.
That brings us back into compliance. It's saying, if someone's not doing their job, whether it's the select board, the town administrator, a commission, a staff member, a department head, they need to be held accountable.
You're on the right track, I
Okay,
think.
okay. Pulling this back in, accountability. I think we had talked about in the town administrator
Yep.
section, or select board section, that there was going to be some phrasing that we had talked about, that the select board gets the right to call in a department head and speak to them at an open meeting, not over coffee somewhere, but come in and have a conversation. Maybe that language should be here in the committees, whether they're regulatory or appointed, because the traffic safety, for example, we deal with the police department and DPW, those are two that we interact with. Because you can't make decisions if somebody says, I want a crosswalk here, well, the reason it's not gonna be there is because there's a split in the road, all these reasons as to whether something should or shouldn't be done. We don't deal in a vacuum, and neither do some of these others. So clearly, the golf committee should be talking to the golf director. I think it's a superintendent, no.
Somewhere you want to put a phrase to the extent that boards and committees
It's a
should
problem.
have reasonable access to staff involved in their responsibilities.
And reasonable access to
Right, and we've talked about that, there's gotta be
some
real
phrases.
guardrails
Right.
there.
Because there was an issue with that,
Oh, yeah,
obviously,
big
right?
time. Yeah.
On and off, but again, because
Yeah.
you have people
Yeah.
Not
who are on these
doing their job.
committees, not robots, that sometimes people say, well, we want to find this,
Yeah.
I'm just gonna go right down there and ask.
Hmm.
And before you know it, there's a poor director who has 7 to 9 committee members
Mhm.
coming in on a daily basis wanting information, and the department goes to hell.
Yeah,
So-
interesting.
It's the type of thing that you gotta pull back on.
Oh, yeah.
It's the guardrails, so maybe I like the reasonable access to the appropriate staff people,
Inappropriate done.
and appropriate.
One of
Let's
my,
just wordsmith that.
one of my
That's a great
departments,
idea.
someone
Perfect
came in
idea.
last week and went
During-
directly to the director during workday. It's like, no. When a door says employees only, you wanna make an appointment to speak to someone, you have reasonable access. But no one can just walk into any office and say,
Well,
well,
reasonable access within the framework of a publicly posted meeting.
yeah, which is fine.
Let's
Yeah.
rephrase that. How do we make committees and town government town employees work closer together to get the things done, rather than the conflict
We'll
areas?
put a bunch of Valium in water.
But there are like 3 spots
That's a
here.
management
Hire a good
issue.
town administrator.
Yeah, that's a
who
management
tells-
issue.
That's
Yeah,
a
well, I
management-
understand,
But
but
he-
You
But
hire-
that's a
management
manage-
has policies.
Right,
Under which, okay?
but go back
But
to
that's not the charter.
Conservation Committee.
That's, right.
Conservation, they're doing the same thing, and it's like 3 different committees here, the same statements. Conservation Committee shall be subject to day-to-day supervision by the town administrator within the scope of the general policy and direction established by the commission. So this, we've seen it like
It's-
4 times. Policy of the commission or the committee, approved by the select board, and then deal with the day-to-day is of the department, the staff member.
Yep.
That's it. You're gonna, whoever committee you are, whether it's traffic safety, and you wanna recommend a new crosswalk, you've got policies of what you do with it, but then you need to, yes, have access to DPW, police, but it still needs to basically go back before the select board.
Yes, it does. And that's what we do, is we get our information, make a proposal to the select board, say traffic safety is doing, would like to propose such and this, because we've gotten 2 policies through the select board, and, there was things that, and we said, this is what we're proposing, and they said, fine, because we put together a policy, we dealt with other departments and got everything ready.
So we have a model of what really should work.
Right.
Let's make sure that model is,
But that is the town administrator's job, to make sure this
And
happens.
one of the things
then let's make it the town.
one of the
No, I agree.
Yeah.
things that we can look forward to in the next, I would say, month and a half to 2 months, is that I anticipate that we will have hired a new town administrator by that time. Screening committee's done its work. We're done. Gonna go into the hands of the select board, and they're gonna do whatever they're gonna do. And I think it's gonna be really, really important that we talk to this person about management style, about maybe things that would be in the charter that would be helpful going forward. So, and I think all of this, but this particular conversation about staff, about committees, about policies, I think these are all things that a good manager is going to be able to help us out with. What's worked in other places, what hasn't. So I'm really looking forward to that.
Where are we now in that process?
We're almost there.
We're almost,
We have down to one person?
no.
Three.
The screening committee is done. We finished up today, about 3 hours ago. And we have recommendations to send to the select board.
Right.
We've got some really good candidates. And then it's up to them. But, we've got a timeline, because Tony is only, his contract,
Right.
he's only got like another
And he's
150
not-
days.
No,
No, not even that.
no.
Not even that, 100 days maybe?
No,
No,
35
less than
days.
90, yeah.
It was less than 90.
Oh, that's right,
Yeah.
no, that's right, so it's 90 and 90, 180.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so we need to, we needed to get it done, but we had some really, really good response and we've
That's great.
got some
All right,
good
Good job.
candidates.
Great, that's what I'm gonna see if we can wrap up.
Those are those policies that I mentioned, of who they report to and the policy that they create is on 7 of the 10 committees that are mentioned in here. There should be one paragraph that applies to all of those committees, whatever is going to be put in there.
We
Agreed.
could list the committees without going into that verbiage for
charter.
every single one.
Right, and that, it should be, I'm saying,
Just
all
a
of
general.
these appointed committees,
Mhm.
or elected, whatever we come down to, shall be worked, that they shall create policy,
What do they do? Is-
ratified by the select board,
Mhm.
and then the department, the staff are under the day-to-day supervision of the town administrator.
So one section
I'm thinking
that-
that we could get
One
that
section
in-
that
One at a
covers.
time.
Oh, sorry.
Go.
So just one section that covers the committees.
The whole thing.
One. So if it's section
And
17,
list, and list the
I like
half
that.
dozen regulatory committees.
great.
I
You
think-
had suggested, or you had said that
Mhm.
you would be willing to look through the regulatory
I
committees.
could do that.
And get the citations from
Mhm.
Mass General Law, put them all on a piece of paper,
Yeah, I
and
could do
that would
that.
be great.
I could do that.
Thank
When
you.
would you like it by?
Yesterday.
Next meeting or
No,
2
no.
weeks?
Next meeting would be good.
I could do that. I'll send out beforehand with some hyperlinks as well and just whatever,
Sure.
just so you can
Good.
get to the information.
Sandy,
Okay.
Oh, I was just thinking that a lot of this could be covered under the 362 and under the powers of appointment. As far as that,
That's fine. I
yeah,
don't care what's put, as long as it's memorialized.
and a list of the.
When you speak of policies, and I kind of get the sense that you feel a committee comes up with 1 or 2 policies, and I understand they would then present it to the select board for their approval, and then what, does that policy become somehow published in the town
Should be on the website.
website or something under the policy statement? Well, when I think of that, I think of, for example, like policies that establish how the Caleb Chase Fund works. We have, we have like 14 policies.
Sure.
I've never submitted them to the select board technically, and there's nothing, there is a reference.
But
in-
you're a semi-autonomous committee. is-
Commission?
whatever they're an
The
agency.
Caleb Chase
They're
Fund.
We
appointed.
float out
They're-
there.
Right,
they're
that's-
We're
appointed.
appointed members,
Just under
moderate.
the radar.
Yeah, but to be honest with you, if you are creating policies like that, they should be adopted. And
Yeah.
it's because you look at everyone who's doing it, commissions. Council on Aging, for instance, transportation policy. Who gets to use the bus? What's the conduct on the bus? Those are policies that we enacted from COA
Yeah.
that had to be endorsed by the select board. We're doing things on miscellaneous parcels from the Board of Assessors. We're creating a policy that has to be endorsed.
Okay, so if I went to the website and looked under Council on Aging, would I see every
Should be
one of
there.
those
Yeah,
policies
it should
in
be.
that?
Now, we can get you a copy of it, because we have it in our books.
I mean, because it
Yeah.
doesn't seem to apply to things I've looked at.
They all should be, and again, whether it's been done correctly or not,
If that's
it
the
should
case,
be.
yeah.
The website,
okay,
the
that's good.
website leaves much to be desired. in
and Paul,
terms
here's the
of-
thing, is we're looking moving
One at
forward,
a time.
what's going to happen moving forward? That if
Yeah.
policy is dictated by any commission or
I
committee,
agree.
who does the staff report to? And then select board ratifies all policy.
Yeah. It just seemed like you were saying it is in existence now, and I just question whether that is accurate.
In some cases it is, maybe it's not been done everywhere, but again, we can't solve the problems of what has happened.
No.
We can create the roadmap for the future.
And there's one more element to what you're saying.
What's that?
For a way of letting the committees know that they're to drive the formulation
Of policy.
of policy.
Sure.
And to move up. That maybe even once a year, there has to be a report to that fact. Because some committees, they just accept this is what I have to do, without thinking, is there a way of changing this to make it better?
I think that's a little harsh. I think they are doing that.
Some are, I would
So
agree.
I'm not gonna get into,
That's the point of what's been
That's
done.
I
Right.
just a point.
Yeah.
Just a
but
point.
I also think that, lost my train of thought, 'cause I was
Good.
like, that was
Good.
harsh.
Good. You could have forgotten that.
Just one last thing on this, is in the charter already, it talks about the change in composition of appointed town agencies.
What's that, Raymond?
It is page 17, section 73-1, and I think we're putting in whatever's going into the charter for committees, if it's regulatory, we should put a number of members that are on the committee. And then you have the right to change it. This gives town meeting the right to change the number of members on a committee. We've done it from Council on Aging
Yeah,
twice.
I don't have a problem with, it's not an issue for me how many people are on the committee, that's all.
Yeah,
That's- I understand.
but what I don't wanna see is 3, 5, 7, or 9. You know, that's, it. Who decides 3, 5, or 7, or 9? Here's what it says.
All right.
Town meeting will dictate
I
who does it.
can,
And that's my point of,
Well, again,
May, by
Brendan?
bylaw,
Wait a minute.
which it does now, the bylaw tells you there are 7 members or 5 members, so I don't know.
but I think Brendan will find out through his review.
Yeah.
you're forced by the
I
state.
vaguely
Oh, yeah, yeah,
remember
yeah.
that something like the assessors, that it does state in Mass General Law, 3, 5, 7, or 9. I think it really
Okay,
does
that's an
state that.
yeah, it's weird, it has, because I actually marked that when I first read this, it was 1, 3, 5, 7, or 9.
1.
I thought that was
It is
unusual.
1, 3, 5,
Yeah.
7, or 9.
Did you do the job all by yourself?
No, I didn't like hell.
Yeah, I'll take a look at all that.
That sounds great.
Yeah.
So, all right. It's almost 8 o'clock.
It is past 8 o'clock.
It's 8:02.
Motion
Yes,
to
it
I'm
is.
gonna turn into a pumpkin.
Yes, I am.
All right, so,
Football game on.
Motion to adjourn.
And
Oh,
on to-
oh, that's right.
8:20.
so hang on before we do adjournments. Sit down for a minute. So next week, continue on the appointed town agencies. We'll have some
Mhm.
additional information.
Yep.
Read through that section. How would we reword things and start making some changes? The other thing is, we have I got the happy little letter, because by being the chair of this illustrious committee, that we have to have our report in
Right.
the town
Yeah.
report by January 9th. Do you want me to draft something? I can bring it back, we can look at it, because it's due by January 9th. One of those, the one that goes into the book.
Yeah.
Is that okay with everyone?
Absolutely.
I think the chair can.
That'd be great.
Yeah, I'm sure. There's nobody else, yeah. So it's gonna be just a one page.
That's fine.
Is there anything else?
Motion
Can we
to
hold
adjourn.
the letters till next week?
Yes, is
Yes.
They're not time sensitive.
Can- I would make one recommendation before, if you want to change the letter, change it the way you like. I just don't want to be rewriting over.
Oh, no, yeah,
Well,
I'll make some
There
notes.
are 2 drafts.
Right, there are 2
Okay.
different letters.
Okay, good. Oh,
And they
good.
may be 2 different letters.
Did I get those? Will you all get them?
They were sent, I got them.
I didn't get
out.
them.
Probably
were-
sent through your town
I
email
know,
now?
I know.
And they were sent out, well, initially they were sent out at about 6 o'clock this morning, but
Oh, I
there was a little,
can check that.
there was a little
I
snafu,
got
but
both.
Okay,
you got
no,
both
that's
of them.
fine.
I sent you an email.
You're the only one who did.
Well, I texted you when I.
That's because I didn't.
I take direction very well.
You're married to Bernadette, of course you do. All right, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Okay, Paul, you can be the
I'll
second.
second that.
I
Oh.
got Paul.
Wait a minute, I
We're
made the
good.
motion 10 minutes ahead of him.
All right.
I'll second, I'll
Just-
second.
I know.
Paul,
I got him.
All right.
Jeez, I didn't know you were so,
I
All
wanna
those in
see my
favor?
Aye.
name
Go home.
in
Just a
minutes.
point of order.
I didn't know you were so
Madam
damn sensitive.
The only way I get my name.
Just because I want to grow a beard like he does.
Well, how much stuff, guys?
Well, you know, I I'm
Yeah.
trying
Some
to
of the
get
stuff I
in
said,
the
you read
habit.
it?
I know.
Somebody poke at,
You know what?
I'm trying to
No.
get in the
Tell me what
habit
I'm meeting.
Okay.
to do that, because otherwise I'm not going to.
Yeah.
So I'm
Oh,
trying
yeah.
to
I
use
used-
my
Well,
time in
when
the
I-
morning.
Yeah, I'm interested.